Okay, here's the thing. I am a hopeless romantic. And in this economy, that's, well, a struggle. And sometimes I do get like existential crisis type questions like, ooh, am I in for love? Ooh, am I in for dating? And all that things. And believe me, the last thing I need is a dating app dictating my my dating life, whatever. And then in comes Materialists, and yeah, my feelings are short. I'm gonna stay a hopeless romantic, no matter what. Well, to be honest, this is Preet's perspective with me, Preeta. So a few days ago, I got a chance to see the premiere of Materialists, which is the new A24 movie by Celine Song, whom you may know her work from past lives. It stars Dakota Johnson, Chris Evans, and Pedro Pascal. And it's sort of a rom-com, or should I say, a rom dramedy of sorts. So the plot follows Dakota Johnson's character Lucy, who plays a matchmaker in New York City. She sets up dates, she sets up possible marriageable couples, and she bumps into Harry, played by Pedro Pascal, who is, as she calls him, a unicorn, which is rich, sophisticated, charming, and did I say he's rich? And they sort of start dating, but then she also bumps into her ex-flame John, played by Chris Evans, who is a typical, well, almost average New Yorker, like me. And what follows next is this, and not necessarily like a love triangle, but sort of like a mathematical equation of weighing the pros and cons of love, and where does where does love sort of take place in this sort of materialistic economy, and that sort of is the plot. Okay, so I'm gonna go head on and address the elephant in the room of why A24 is suddenly going so mainstream by giving us genres like rom-com or big action flicks like Civil War. Well, here's the thing. A24 is going sort of mainstream, but at the same time, it's sort of retaining its original quality that it's known for. It is known for giving us stories which sort of celebrates the creator more than the production house itself. And that's what makes A24 so niche. If you look at Civil War, if you look at even their latest flick with the Philippou brothers, Bring Her Back, which I highly, highly recommend you go and check it out. You won't come back the same person, mind you. And please carry a bit of Kleenex when you go to that film. But back to Materialists. So Materialists, like I said, it's sort of a rom dramedy more than how it is marketed like a rom-com. I mean, I get why they would market it as a rom-com because, well, they need the numbers, okay? And of course, they would market it heavily based on like creating a love triangle between Pedro Pascal, Chris Evans, and Dakota Johnson. But in a way, when you know you're going for an A24 movie, you know you can expect something else at a whole other level. I really like the fact how this movie starts conversations about where does love truly exist in a materialist economy, when you have, in an era when you have like dating apps, when you have matchmaking services literally pairing you with the perfect match as per an algorithm. Where's the place for organic sort of connections to build, to flourish, and to sort of develop into something meaningful? And I really like how the movie opens with this sort of montage of how love used to be, when material things like how much money do you make before taxes, do you have a $12 million apartment or penthouse, didn't matter. And I really like how that montage sort of shifts into, well, how we are today. We need to wear expensive clothes. You need to look presentable. You need to have a look to be desirable, when organic relationships can sort of build on something as simple as a common interest, or you go to the same cafe, or in my case, well, you go to the same jam session. So in a way, it sort of is like it sort of builds this contrast between how we have sort of lost the sort of hopelessness in being a romantic, and how even romance itself has sort of become a very calculated move. Oh, he's rich. Oh, he has a penthouse, so maybe I'm going to start liking him more. When that may not always be the case, which I feel like Song brilliantly does this through her characterization. And of course, through the story, we also see like clientele being like, oh, I want these qualities in my partner. When your partner can be, well, your partner can almost be like that, or may not be someone like that at all, and still you can have the sort of love which you see in movies, or you see in books, or you sort of dream about in that way. So yeah, I feel like the story sort of had a very organic flow and sort of felt a little too real, to be honest, because, well, this is our reality. Our dating lives have sort of started being dictated by algorithms, by how much money does a partner make, how do they look, are they fit, how do they put makeup on every day, do they wear dresses every day, do they show off their curves, or do they have a Bugatti or a Ferrari or whatever. And I also want to talk about the characterization. Like I said, Song really builds her characters really well. And let's start with, of course, Dakota Johnson. She's the heart and soul of the movie. She lives the role of Lucy. She will make you hate her, she will make you criticize her, and then you sort of empathize with her too. Because when you've always been brought up to have certain expectations, you sort of deflect it on others, and you will literally feel like you've met a person like Lucy before. Looks for material things, who is always evaluating people rather than getting to know them, always treating people as like a get-to-know-you project, as an investment, rather than treating them as like, well, a person. And when that world sort of breaks down for her, you sort of see why she sort of got sucked into this sort of materialistic mindset in the first place. And when that mindset sort of crumbles and goes, well, to a place, you finally see the real and raw Lucy, who is that sort of hopeless romantic, who wants to look for love in a person, who wants to love a person for who they are, and not be like, oh, I love you because you have a Bulgari necklace, or the way you pick up the bill and just sign it off like it's nothing for you. And I also want to talk about Chris Evans. I feel like, personally, 90% I am like Chris Evans' character John, and maybe 10% I'm like Lucy, that is Dakota Johnson, who, well, lives in an apartment, has had terrible roommate situations, and well, is sort of crammed up, but is still hopeful that they're gonna make it in the city. And always has he still holds space to being a hopeless romantic, which which I really, really adored, and that's what makes his character so like cute in a way. And of course, there is.
It's even worse. Pedro, yeah. Pedro, yeah. Pedro.
How dreamy can a man look and feel? Like, I mean, the man can literally go from playing a horrible, horrible person in Game of Thrones to being someone very brooding, very calculative in Narcos, to be, well, a dreamy, dreamy husband materialist. And Harry is also you also see that Harry, as much as he loves his status being like the unicorn and being desirable, and he loves the attention, he also seeks to have that sort of out of the blue connection with someone and not be treated as if like I'm some investment. He wants to find someone of value over I literally forgot my point.
That's what happens when you talk about Pedro Pascal, because he is that dreamy.
That's another thing that he didn't come to the premiere, but
that's the screen.
Okay, now that we have dreamed about Pedro and we have ranted about what's so good about this movie, let's talk about what's the one thing that put me off a little, which was there's a moment where the pitch of the movie sort of takes a nosedive. There's a very strong event that happens that sort of breaks down Lucy's perception of having this sort of materialistic mindset, and how do we sort of look for the perfect partner, and how we only take things on face value, and deeper inside that person can be something so scary, so toxic, and borderline horrifying. And I just wish that there was just some space for us to process that all, because when that event happens, and I don't want to spoil anything, there's just this sort of uneasiness that sets in, and it becomes difficult for you to, get it out of you. And one moment, when on one hand the moment like this happens, next scene you're expecting us to laugh again. Well, we won't. I get why Celine sort of made it so abrupt. That's how it happens in like dating life. There is a risk involved, but I also I sort of wish that there was just a point of resolution that was met, because I felt like even with when this type of strong event happens, it not just affects you physically, it affects you mentally too. And to get over that, it doesn't just take a few days. It takes weeks, years. Sometimes you may not even get over it at all when something like that happens. And it's sort of hard to sort of follow along the story when there's this deep of a nosedive in the pitch. You expect us to still feel those warm fuzzies between Lucy and John and Harry. You still sort of expect us to feel a sense of tension between the two leads, but deep down, you've witnessed something that has made you slightly uncomfortable. So, in that way, I feel like the pitch shift could have been gradually introduced, And I just wish it didn't just come out of nowhere. I wish there was like certain hints or clues that were put out, which would be easier for us to be able to catch, and it wouldn't just like throw you off and not necessarily ruin your viewing experience, but sort of like go with the flow. Like there should be an ebb and a low, an ebb and a low. For me, it's sort of you are at a high, you're having these wonderful, warm, fuzzy, and somewhat laugh out loud moments, and then all of a sudden, yeah, that sort of was the one thing that irked me. But otherwise, Materialist is actually a really good movie, and it does, make you wonder what you think. It makes you like contemplate your position about love and where does it stand when we still are on the lookout for materialistic things in a partner. So on that note, I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5, just for that one tiny pitch shift. And I'd honestly say, grab your girls, grab your partners, go to the theater to watch this one, maybe share a large popcorn together when you're watching it. And yeah, that was my take on Materialists. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, do the whole shebang. Follow me on Instagram at McCurdy01 for more such reviews. And you can also follow me on Letterboxd at ThatFilmyChick and drop in the comments what you felt about Materialists. This is Priest Perspective signing off. Bye!